All right. Hello, boys and girls. So we are back once again with a very quick episode. So 4 episodes, I think it is, back to back to back to back. And with that, that's actually where I wanted to start this episode, kind of give you a schedule of sorts. So I wanted to put out episodes here pretty quick to kind of make up for the lull in the holiday season. However, I'm actually going on vacation for a couple weeks here coming up. So for those who are paying attention to the tournament schedule, KIT is next weekend, and I will be attending that. So I'll be gone for that. Won't be able to record anything. And then once I get back, I'm only back home for a couple days before I go on my real vacation, which is a week and a half of me doing nothing on a beach somewhere, hopefully. So that is the plan. So after this, don't expect an episode probably for maybe 3 weeks or so. But once I get back from my vacation, I'll try to get back on it, get some quick episodes up. But just want to let everybody know so you're not surprised if you don't see any more episodes. But with that, let's get into this episode. Let's talk about another character on our huge, gigantic list of TTT2 characters. So this episode, I actually wanted to I guess go off the beaten path a little bit. I'm not going to say that this character is necessarily an unpopular one. Just one I guess people don't. At least I don't hear them talking about too much, but you'll see her on occasion, and that is Leo. So with that, I wanted to bring on a past guest, who's pretty well known player. I think does pretty well at tournaments and whatnot, and that is of course Bloodhawk. So what's going on, Bloodhawk?
Hey, what's up, dude? I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
Not too bad. So I wanted to ask real quick. The last time you were on, you were actually talking about Huarong. And if I remember correctly, your Tag 2 team is Leo Huarong, right? Or did that change?
It's one of many. It's like one of a couple of teams right now. I would say the main team right now I'm running is actually Marduk and Leo, but I'm still in the lab with Horong, so I'm trying to stick him on whatever team I can.
Gotcha.
So right now it's either Horong Leo or Horong Dragonov for possible Horong teams. So
Nice. So regardless of who the second character is, it seems like your main focus, I guess you could say, is on Leo, correct?
yeah, I'm still using Leo very very much in this game.
Perfect. Well, we won't go through any intro too much since you kind of already did that on the T6 episode. So I guess we can just kind of jump right into the conversation. When we talked about Leo in T6, I actually had a gamble on, and I only remember a little bit about that conversation. But I want to normally I kind of just throw. The opener to my guest and we kind of go from there, but I wanted to start it instead and go, I guess, say a couple of impressions that Leo made on me when we talked about her in T6, and then just kind of get your opinions on how that's changed or how what's going on in Tag 2 with that. And when we talked to Gamble about it, what I remember, like the highlights, is that she was really really good at like the combo damages, like especially at the wall. Like her strings just fit so well into that. I guess you could say. Why am I blanking out on the word? Like that facet of the game. Like that area
The
is
the
just
wall system basically.
yeah,
The
the
system.
wall. But like with tag, you have the tag assault, which is really good for characters that have like strings or moves that lead into stances. To kind of get that those really high floats and those really long wall carries or whatever it may be. And it seems like she kind of fits really well into that system with the tag assault. And of course, walls are still really strong. It just, like her juggles in general just seem like really, really strong. So that's one of the impressions I got. And then she seemed like a pretty good, like pressure, or not pressure, but like I guess Whiff Punisher would kind of fall into that category too. But like stuff like forward forward two, down forward two are just like really really scary tools. So I'm curious if that, I mean, it still seems like she's really really good in the juggle area. And then I still notice a lot of forward forward twos, down forward twos as well. So I'm just curious, like, is that still her focal point, or did things change a little bit, and like you're trying to do other things, or
Pretty much, it's pretty much the same way that she was in T6. She was a character that she received a couple of nerfs and a couple of buffs, but in the end, in my opinion, she's still more or less exactly the same character she was in Tekken 6. So she has a character that has really good solo juggle damage, really good wall damage, really good block, and with punishers, as you said. So she's just a powerhouse of a character, really. She's really capable of outputting a lot of damage that a lot of people that if they're not familiar with the character, I guess it would be really unexpected to see.
gotcha.
So
Well, okay. Well, so with that, I actually have a follow up question because you said that she's gotten some nerfs and she's gotten some buffs as well, but her damage is still like ridiculous. Now, because of the system itself, because of the tag system, do you think overall that she actually went up because of that, or do you think she's kind of where like the same? Um, I don't want to say tier. Like tier feels like the wrong word, but like she's still
in the
about
same
as
place.
strong, yeah, as she was in T6, or do you think she's actually stronger because of the tag system?
Um, the tag system, it's weird with the tag system because, in my opinion, a lot of her solo juggles. The thing with Leo in T6 and the same way in this game is that a lot of her optimized solo juggles have a very large number of hits in them before you bound them. So when you tag assault, unless the character has a very specific kind of move, like one or two hits and they go flying, and it's really hard for Leo to follow up. So in a lot of the cases that I've been trying to be in the lab, trying to find good tag assault filler, a lot of the times if I have to modify my staple Leo juggles, it ends up having sort of a net decrease, like a net damage decrease.
Mhm.
So it's been really hard. Like I've come up with a couple of juggles where I could get more damage than I do solo, but they're kind of hard or they're really difficult to hit. So I'm still practicing them. But
Interesting.
that's when Leo is on point. When she's the character coming in for tag assault, I think she has one of the most damaging and versatile tag assault fillers in the game.
Oh,
So basically, it's when she's the tag assault character, you do basically forward three, you hold down, you go into her AOP stance, which I'm sure we'll talk about later,
mhm.
and you do AOP 1-2, and that's basically what you do for very short juggles, and that does a very large amount of tag assault filler, and it because the last hit of the tag assault filler pops them up into the air instead of knocking them away. It allows a lot of characters really easy follow ups afterwards. So she becomes really good when she's anchor, and also against the wall, like you said before. Her staple Tekken 6 wall juggle appears to like be perfectly fine with some slight modification in this game.
Mhm.
So you use her Tekken 6 wall juggle, which is bound, and her while standing 1-4-1 string with some slight modifications that I'm pretty sure we'll talk about later. And then a lot of characters can easily follow up on that. And the other way around too, when she's on the wall and somebody else is doing tag assault filler, she can easily crouch and do that while standing string. So she she has a lot of damage, and the only thing that seems to be lacking or awkward is when she's trying to when she's starting the combo and somebody else is trying to tag assault for her combo. But that the what's the best way to say this? The offshoot is that a lot of her launchers are tag bufferable. Her while standing one, her BOK slash AOP two, a lot of her juggles you can tag off them. So you mitigate that by instead of making it having to follow up on an awkward Leo juggle, is that you just tag in your secondary character and have them do it, and then Leo can do her awesome tag filler that I talked about before.
Mm,
So.
interesting. So, so yeah, it sounds like most of the time you're just trying to tag out with her and then tag her back in to do the tag
Mhm.
assault. So for the second character, it sounds like most of the time you're actually not trying to do red life combos with them because it tagging her in probably isn't. Um, I would say optimized just because of the tag assault issue with her being the on
Well,
point character, or the point character.
well, you could tag her in. It's just that you're probably not going to tag assault once she's in,
Mm,
unless you have a good team synergy with her. But in that case, it's fine. It's sort of okay not to tag assault anyway, because that just means her full combo is going to be all red life. So that's not that big of a trade off anyway.
gotcha. But so it sounds like even though there's that little bit of an issue where she tries to tag assault somebody else in, you don't really need it. Like her combo damage, just even solo, is just so beefy that it's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I know that past people on the podcast have talked about it, where there's still a little bit of that debate where to tag assault or not to tag assault. That seems to be the big question in this game. And if unless you're getting 20 or more damage off of your tag assault, it's like not really worth it for the trade off. That seems to be where most people are on it. So I guess I'm guessing that even if you do tag assaults your second character in, she could probably get she's lower than the 20 plus, even if she gets more damage off of
Yeah.
it. Okay, interesting.
The it's also it's dependable,
Mm,
because like I would agree with that idea of getting about 20 damage or more, since that would be about, most jugglers do like 70 or 80, so 20 more damage is like maybe 25% more.
mhm.
But if you're tag assaulting late in the combo, that means more than likely the filler is already scaled, so you're not giving them that much more red life. So I usually have no problem with tag assaulting late if you have a really good if you have good filler or consistent filler, which I'm still trying to find with Leo. But one of the things I never enjoy doing is tag assaulting very early in the combo, because that's giving the opponent a lot of red health that if they can get out safely, they're going to recover back. So that's if there's any tag assaulting rules I try to abide to, it's uh, don't tag assault early in a combo
Gotcha.
if you can help it.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say the only other thing that I can think of is obviously if you're tag assaulting, and then it's going to get them to a wall where she can then do massive damage. Obviously, you want to do that.
Yeah.
So you talked earlier about, I guess, just to start talking more about general strategies and what you're trying to do when you're playing with her outside of juggles. You kind of opened the door a little bit, talking about the stances and whatnot. Now, when I talked with Gamble for T6, his sort of strategy. Obviously, you're going to abuse the strings and going in and out of stances if it seems like they don't know what's going on. Like, I mean, that's just a no-brainer. If they don't know what's happening, then then you got to abuse that and just pretty much throw the kitchen sink at them. But when they do seem to know what they're doing, he seemed to be of the philosophy where it's lots of just kind of baiting, waiting for the punish. If they whiff something, hit them with a down 4-2, since hers has huge range on it, or forward 4-2 is amazing as well. And then both of those give the knockdown, except of course down 4-2 in certain situations. But so is that are you more pressure heavy when you play with her, or is there or do you follow the same sort of pattern?
I follow the same sort of pattern. I think that Leo has a very, very good set of whiff and block punishing tools in this game and the last game, but we're going to focus on this game. Basically, like you said, down forward 2 has an incredible range. Instead of forward 2 for long range stuff, I usually try to do a crouch dash into wall standing 2 to try to get a launch on that, but forward 2 is also very good. For whiff punishing, her forward 2-2, which is a 14 frame high mid string that has a lot of range. That's really good for block and whiff punishing. But in my opinion, she's really good at controlling the sort of middle range. That's sort of just outside, just at the edge of her down forward 2 and forward 2 and a lot of those ranges. She's really good at dancing around that and with punishing anything that comes her way. And her pressure is a little dubious, because a lot of her generic stuff that a lot of other characters share, like a down forward one or a down four and stuff like that, they tend to be slower than the most of the generic stuff. Like her down forward one is like 13 frames, but instead of being 0 on block like a lot of other characters are, it's -1. And her down 4 is like 16 frames, and it's also like -1 or -2 on hit. So she kind of it's kind of hard to have a sustained pressure with her. You kind of want to like poke away at somebody and try to get a couple of hits in, and you just want to like sort of sidestep or dance back out and then try to get a whiff punish or a good block punisher if they try to press a button.
Gotcha.
But in the mid range, I think that's where she's the most dominant.
Okay, well, I guess let's talk about that a little bit then. Is that I mean, do her stances like fit into any of that at all, or are there like moves that that you're using at that range that lead into that stuff, or are most of her stances kind of just, I guess, relegated to juggle stuff?
She has two stances. The official Tekken Tag English move list gives them very long Chinese names. So in T6, I think we were going by the Japanese translations, and we abbreviated them as KNK and BOK. So KNK is the stance where she has her right leg up, and it's sort of like a crane-esque stance, and you get into it through a bunch of move transitions like forward 4, back 1 4, 3 2 4. A lot of the moves that have like end in a knee, and then it's an auto stance transition. You can't choose whether or not you go into stance. But that move, when the knee is blocked, it puts her at frame advantage, and I use it as one of the ways to try to get in on somebody, as just try to get in like when somebody's playing a really tight game and they're not really falling for the I'm gonna dance in the middle range and whip something. So I actually have to go. We actually have to go in and make it a real fight sort of thing. But when you block that knee into the stance transition, she's at plus, and she has 4 moves out of that stance. She has KNK1 is this actually it's 1 2. It's a string. It's a 2-hit high mid. It used to be a mid in T6, and for some reason I don't know what was the reasoning for it. They shifted the first hit to a high instead of a mid.
It was clearly OP, dude. It's clear.
I guess it was. I guess it was OP.
Gotta love
But
those random changes.
yeah. But when you block I'm gonna list all the moves first, and then I'll talk about what the mix-up is afterward. So KNK2 is this high sort of backhand. She just takes her right fist and she sort of backhands the opponent, and it's a high. And on normal hit, it spins them around, and you don't really get anything guaranteed, but you can run in and force a mix-up while they're trying to turn around. And on counter hit, it'll stun them, and it'll put them into you can basically, it's a juggleable state. You can float them for a juggle while they're falling to the ground. It's sort of like, it's not exactly the same stun, but it's kind of like hitting Steve back 1 on counter hit. And then KNK 3 4, that's another string. It's a mid hop kick. If you do both hits, she can't really float except with a down 4 2, which is a 2-hit string. But if you just do the first hit, KNK3 by itself, she can get a normal juggle off of it. And that's -13 on block. The first 2 moves are the KNK1 is safe, KNK2 is safe, and then KNK1 2, the 2-hit string, that's like -12-ish at most, I believe. KNK3 is -13, and it's basically a hop kick into a full juggle. And then KNK4 is a low standing stomp that it's basically launch punishable on block, and it just gives frame advantage on hit, but it does decent damage for what it does. So basically the mix-up is when you block any of the transitions, she has more transitions, but I'm going to focus on the ones that end in the knee. When you block that knee, she's at frame advantage. So the basic mix-up is if you push a button and I do KNK2 and it's not like a high crush, I'm going to beat out anything you do and get the counter hit, juggle. If you don't basically, and once I scare you into not pressing a button because you're scared of getting the counter hit juggle, then I can mix you up with basically the hop kick or the low stomp. So it's a very sort of not brain dead because the low is launch punishable, but it's a very simple 50-50. And since the knee is the knee is plus frames, sorry. The last part of this stance is that when she's in stance, if you tap down forward, she transitions into a crouch dash. So if I don't want to commit, if you block the knee and I don't really want to commit to the 50-50 mix-up because I'm just uncertain of how you're going to block, I can tap crouch dash, I can basically tap up the sidestep, and then I can basically reset the situation. And if I do it fast enough, we're both at even. Or if I do it frame perfect, like if I could like tool assisted sort of stuff, I might be still at frame advantage, but in most situations you can just consider yourself to just reset the situation into a basic, like we're both standing and I have my whole standing moveset. So a lot of the moves that go into that stance have range. Like back 1-4 is going to be in my opinion, is your main tool for going into that stance, and that has a lot of range. So you do back 1-4 to sort of close the distance. Then you decide, is he going to press a button and is it going to be a high crush? Then I press 2. I try to counter hit you. Is he scared to press a button? Then I mix you up with a mid launcher or a low stomp poke sort of thing. Am I afraid to commit to the mix up? Then I just tap down forward, I sidestep, and then we reset. But I'm in, and we've reset the situation, but now I've closed the distance, which is what I wanted to do in the beginning. So it's once you get used to it, it's basically making that decision once you make the initial stance transition. So that's basically what that stance is used for. Nothing particularly cheap about it, nothing really fancy. It's just, 3 options: counter hit, mix up, reset, that
Now,
sort of thing.
are there any high crushes in the game that stop the 3 or the 4? So kind of option selecting all of them. You just do
I
it,
have
and there's nothing that she can do about it.
I haven't tested the frame data in this game, but if I'm remembering correctly, if you're mashing out the 3, basically you try to do the 3 as early as you can. The frame advantage gives you the frame advantage since it's a mid. The frame advantage on the hop kick is such that I think you have to do something 13 frames or slower if you want to beat out the hop kick. So, and I'm not sure if you beat it out whether or not you get a float or if she's standing or not. I still have to test that in this game. But
This sounds
I
like
don't.
it's pretty rare though. Like if that exists, you're not running into it very
Yeah,
often. Okay, gotcha.
a lot of the times I'm wary about forcing that mix up because you can also sidestep, or you can duck the high K and K2. There's a way to beat the mix up that you can practice to you get it consistent. Well, basically what you do is I believe you can sidestep both. When you do the 50-50 mix-up that I mentioned between the mid and the low, I believe you can sidestep both options to your left. So what you do is to sort of negate the first 2 like either the counter hit or the mix-up, is you sidestep left and then you duck. And if you do it perfectly, you'll avoid the mid or the low, and then you'll duck the high. So you're basically option selecting the whole thing. And because of whether or not I know whether or not people know that nowadays, I just reset the situation and I just use the stance transition as an option to get in. But if you're getting scrubbed out online by that mix-up, you can go into practice mode, you can try it out for yourself. I believe it's sidestep left and then immediate duck, and you should avoid all 3 options: the mid, low, and the high.
Gotcha. But then, as the Leo player, you just have the option to go right back into it if you want to.
Yeah, if as a Leo player, if you see that they do that the very first time, then you can still use the stance, and then as I mentioned, use the crouch dash, sidestep immediately, and now you've canceled the stance, and now you can try to continue whatever pressure that you were trying to put in the beginning.
So, based on that line that you just said, I take it that there's nothing aside from the while standing 2 that you mentioned earlier as kind of a whiff punish of sorts. I take it there's nothing really worthwhile out of her crouch dash.
Actually, she has a couple of good things out of her crouch dash. To move to that one then. Her while standing 4 is really, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it has a really good hitbox, and it's really good at picking up after a couple of her moves on counter hit, which I'm going to talk about soon. Her while standing 3, all these moves, she can do a bunch of her while standing moves from crouch dash, like a lot of other characters can. So I just wanted to disclaimer that first. Her while standing 3 is a really good move. It also has a beefy hitbox. It's 13 frames. It's part of a longer string. Her while standing 1-3-2. The while standing 1-3 is a natural combo on regular hit, and while standing 1-3-2 is natural combo on counter hit, and the last hit knocks down. But while standing 1-3 is -15 on block, and you can't hit confirm it, so you sort of it's only really used for punishing when you know you can get the punish. And while standing 1-3-2, the last hit is high, but it's also, I believe, -16, but it has a little bit of pushback. So basically, it would just be as a regular poke, you would just be doing while standing 3. Now, her actual 2 moves out of crouch dash are crouch dash 1 and crouch dash 2. And crouch dash 1 is a low swipe. It pretty much looks almost exactly like Dragunov's down 2.
Just no little spin or preamble
Yeah.
for it. Gotcha.
And it's like she basically swipes at your feet with her hand. And it's I don't know exactly how much it is how fast it is when you press the button, but it's -13 on block, and it's, I believe, -1 or 2 on hit. So you're basically just using it as a low poke, and then unless the opponent is really scared to press a button, if you try to while standing, because she stays in crouch afterward, if you try to do a while standing move afterward and they try to do a jab or something, you're going to get beaten out. So you got to be careful with that. Her while standing 2 is another move that's really good to try to come in with. It's a sort of an open palm, sort of death fist kind of move. But on normal hit, it doesn't knock down. But on counter hit, they sort of stumble back really far. And if you practice this, it becomes second nature. But if you get the counter hit and you see the counter hit, you can at that point crouch dash after them again, because they stumble back maybe like a quarter or a third of the screen away. So you have to crouch dash after them, and if you do while standing 4 fast enough, you'll pick them up, and then you can go for a full juggle afterward. So it's a really good counter hit tool. And on block, it's -10, but it has good pushback. So I don't think any character in the game can punish it. So her while standing 2 is another good move to come in with, because it's a safe counter hit juggle starter. And it's sidesteppable, but while standing 1 does have really good tracking on it, so if you think they're going to sidestep, you can while standing 1 and catch their sidestep either direction. So,
okay, well, let me ask you this then. When you mentioned K and K, you go into the crouch dash, and then you said that sidestep and then do whatever you want to. Do you ever actually just commit to doing anything out of the crouch dash, or is that not a range that you really want to be messing with it?
you have, from that crouch dash, you have options, all the options that I said before. Sometimes I'll do like a while standing 4 or something to just test the waters or something. A lot of the times I just want to reset into a standing position, but that's just my playstyle. Any other player is perfectly, I believe a lot of her crouch dash moves are usable in that situation. So you can so the beauty of being able to sidestep, cancel the crouch dash, is meaning that you can either instantly have access to your standing moveset or your crouch dash moveset. So it's really versatile. That situation that I mentioned before is incredibly versatile, and you can play it out many different ways besides the ones that I mentioned before.
Interesting. Gotcha. Well, I guess logic dictates that we go to her second stance, unless there was something else you wanted to add.
No, I'm ready to talk about the second stance.
Great.
I think it's it's the stance I like more, actually, because it has a lot more how do you say, bullshit, I think, in this game.
All right. Well, now I take it just with K and K, that it's something that has to be transitioned through moves, right? She can't just openly go in to either.
Actually, I made a mistake. There is a way to manually transition into K and K. You do back 3+4 both kicks,
Mhm.
but she'll take a half sort of a step back while doing it. And the reason why I forgot about it is that because she takes that half step back, I feel like it's really inferior to using as opposed to using the move transitions that I did before. Because I feel like the whole point of that stance is to either to to bait a counter hit or to force a mix up. And if you're using that move to retreat, you're basically there's no way you can do either of those things. So that's why I forgot about it because I barely ever use that manual transition or any of the transitions. She has several transitions that actually go backwards into K and K, but because I use it as an offensive sort of mix-up tool, I barely ever use those transitions.
Yeah, I
But
suppose.
they are possible.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, I suppose that makes perfect sense because when you're talking about, I mean, you mentioned pretty much every situation you're trying to get into that knee that then gives you the frame advantage. If you were to transition with, something like back 3+4, I can only imagine that all of that frame advantage you're giving away. So,
Yeah.
and it doesn't look like it has like any awesome evasion or anything
No.
to it.
She
So
she takes a pretty good step back, so I guess if somebody was mashing buttons right after they stopped blocking a string that transitions into the backward step, you would be able to punish with something. But it's just that it's incredibly rare that I do it. And I don't know if they changed it in Tekken 6, but a, a lot of the move transitions that go into the backwards K and K stance, such as like she can do it off of quarter circle forward 2 and go backwards. But the frame data in T6 was such that if she did any string that transitions into backwards K and K, she was like minus 16 or 17 on block as opposed to being plus frames. So it was like if the opponent knew that, like I would play other Leos, or in this game I play other Leos online, and they try to do something and try to stance, and I just like do forward forward 2 with Leo, or I do like if I'm playing Mishima's, like you can do a dash God Fist or something like that, and hit them out of any option before they can even have a chance to press a button. So that's why it's it's probably useful sparingly, and only if the opponent isn't on point to punish your stance transition. I don't know exactly how what the frame data on those backwards stance transitions are in Tekken Tag 2, but if they're anything like T6, then they're only to be used very sparingly.
gotcha. So with a BOK then, can that is there anything like that, or are you still trying to stick to move
Yes.
transitions?
BOK, the actual manual transition is very useful. It's down 1+2, both punches, just like Ling. And basically, she takes a sort of she crouches down, and I'm using Ling as the example because it's very very similar to AOP in how she looks and how you can use it, even though the actual transition's a little bit slower. But she gets really low to the ground, and in this stance, she has 5 moves that are available to her. I'm gonna do them out of order because I think actually no, I'll do them in order.
Okay.
Uh, BOK 1-2 is a mid string that I believe is minus. It has pushback and it's minus 14 on block. This move is different from how it was in T6 in that it was just BOK 1 in T6, and the one on counter hit in T6 gave a double over stun, or like the crouch stun that you can break by holding forward or any direction in this game now. So it was really good in that game because on counter hit it gave a juggle if they didn't break the stun. But in this game, they removed the counter hit, which to me, once I figured out how easy those kinds of stuns are to break in this game, I sort of was like, okay, if they left it in the game, it probably wasn't going to be anywhere near as useful as it used to be. But the 2 hits, they're mid, they're natural combo, and they do a good chunk of damage. And the way I use that move is I basically manual transition, so down 1+2 from sort of mid range, and the 1 has a really good range and hitbox on it. So I'll poke sort of with that move. And if I'm doing the 1, or if I'm about to do the 1 and I see them try to hit me out of it, then I'll press instead of doing 1 by itself, I'll do 1-2. and it does a really good chunk of damage. Part of the reason why that move is part of her Tag Assault filler. Um, so that move is it's pretty basic. It's a mid poke. It's punishable by characters that have a good long range, like 13 frame move or 14 frame move, like Fang Shoulder or stuff like that. BOK2 is it's a slow mid launcher. It launches them super high up in the air, and you can tag off it. And this move is pretty has a part. I don't know if it's part of the transition into BOK or it's just the move itself, but the move has a tendency to go under a lot of stuff and a lot of high mids as well. So, and it's safe. It's not safe. It's like minus 11 on block. But in open space, only characters like Jack or Jinpachi can really punish it effectively. Against the wall, anybody can punish it with like a minus 11 punisher. But in only open space, only those kind of characters can punish it. So it's really useful for sort of trying to use the manual transition to get under a move and then try to launch it. And if it's a slow enough move, you'll get it. And I basically use that for moves where I think they're going to throw out a move that I can get under and have enough recovery time to tag them with the launcher. Otherwise, I'll use BOK1 or BOK12 because it's way faster. BOK3 is a high homing move, and that's what you keep people from moving when they see you go into stance, because you can sidestep the first two moves I talked about, but since BOK is a homing move, they can't step. And it's high, so they can duck that. But if they duck that, then the first two moves I talked about are mids. So you'll get tagged by that. The clincher on BOK3, though, is that it has on block an immense amount of frame advantage. It's like almost as much as a running 3 or a slash kick.
Yeah, I'm
it's like
looking.
probably,
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm looking at the frame data right now, and it says +9,
yeah,
which is insane.
yeah. So if they block BOK3, they can't do anything. It's free mix up. So what you can do is that you can do a standing mix up, or like what I like to do is like I like to go straight into another stance. Like I'll go into BOK again and I'll mix them up. Basic mix up is now BOK2. Are you gonna duck? Are you gonna try to duck another homing move and risk getting launched, or are you gonna stay ducking high? Sorry, are you gonna stay ducking high and you're gonna block another BOK3 and I'm gonna slowly force you into the corner, or slowly sort of like chip away at like your mental guard, because now you're like, you block it once, you got to guess a mix up. You block it again, you got to guess another mix up. Eventually, most players aren't gonna want to stop having to block, and it's your job as the Leo player at that point to be like, am I going to back up and whiff punish? Am I just gonna put them in a legitimate frame trap at that time? But BOK3 is such a good move for forcing that mental pressure, and against the wall, it's a wall splat move, so it's even greater. It's even better. The only way it would stop from being a completely bullshit move if it was mid. That's its only saving grace from being utter and complete, nonsense.
Yeah.
You can duck. But if you have the guts to duck it, you have to be prepared to eat BOK2 and get launched. So the fourth move is BOK4, and this is a knee transition into K and K stance, and it looks like basically the same knee that you do if you would do back 1-4 from standing. It has all the same properties, same frame advantage, and basically from that, if you do that move, then you basically go into any of the K and K mix-ups that we discussed earlier. And then the last move that I don't use very often is BOK 1+2, and it's a punch Sabaki. Like it'll just auto reverse any punches. And it's a mid, and it'll knock them down. It's pretty cut and dry. I don't really use it that much since the startup is really slow. So basically, the three moves you're gonna use the most out of that stance are BOK1-2, BOK2, and BOK3. So
You don't really mess around too much with going into K and K from that.
I'll do sometimes if I want to force the K and K mix up, but I use K and K mainly to get in, and The knee is basically point blank range. So if I'm already in, then I don't really need to go into K&K. If I'm trying to really screw somebody's mind, then I'll like do multiple stance transitions. But that's sort of like how Way Gamble was talking about in the earlier in the T6 podcast, how you're basically trying to take advantage of somebody's ignorance at that point. Uh, most of my analysis of the move is of these stances and these moves are I'm trying to depict them sort of an equal setting where your opponent sort of knows what they're trying to what the things that you're trying to do with them. So
Interesting. Okay. So in that, I mean, based on the way that you described that, it sounds like you're, for the most part, you're just using that off of like I guess you mentioned earlier the mid range area. So kind of doing that if you expect a whiff, or do you actually throw that out like point blank range?
I probably wouldn't throw it at point blank range since the between the startup of going into stance and then doing the move, it's actually quite a bit of frames. You basically the best way to do it is to either it's basically do the stance transition at mid range, and then a lot of the moves I talked about have a pretty good range on them already. So even if you're already at mid range and the opponent is trying to like backdash out, you still have a chance to clip them. And the difference between the downside of BOK compared to K&K is that there's no way to quickly cancel the stance. If you go into stance and you don't do anything, there is a predetermined amount of time before you can actually stand up and block again. So that's the risky part of doing the stance. But if you do a move from the stance, it's faster than actually waiting for the stance to cancel by itself. So the best way to do it is stay at mid range where the opponent has limited options to launch you because it's the equivalent of ducking at mid range. So unless they have a really strong mid range whiff punisher, like a launcher or something, then you're relatively safe. And then sort of react to what they do. So if they do a quick move to try to hit you and you know it's going to whiff, then you do 1-2 because that's fast. If they try to do something slow and you're going to go under it, then you do BOK2. And if they're scared and don't press buttons, then you can mix them up between BOK2 or BOK3, and then the launcher or frame advantage. So that's how I mainly use that stance.
Gotcha. All right then. Well, I actually do have a question about something I'm actually interested in based on the things that you said earlier, because you were talking a little bit about like counter hit tools, I guess you could call them, and then we're also talking about the stances and trying to hang out at that mid range game. So when you're using BOK, you're mostly trying to take advantage of that's your spacing game and obviously Yomi or any sort of mental game to try to bait whiffs and whatnot. Now it sounds like most of the time you're just kind of hanging back, staying in that mid range. So what are you doing to? Well, I guess there's a two-part question. One, what are her main counter hit tools, and then second, like what are you trying to do to get yourself into that situation where they can become useful, or where somebody would want to attack, where you can try to bait that move? Because we all like K&K, for instance, it has its own set move. It's kind of hard to I guess go straight into a counter hit tool if they decide to just sit there. So like what is the strategy? What's the mind game they're going into it to try to make use of those tools?
All right, so I guess the way to tackle this is I'll talk about each counter hit move and then the way that I like to use them in a match. So I guess the first one I'll talk about is a new one that they put in Tekken Tag 2. It's down forward 1-2, and it's her regular down forward 1 mid poke into a high palm strike, and on hit it'll knock them down face up right in front of you. And basically the down forward 1 has to hit counter hit for the 2 to be guaranteed, and it's really hard, or almost, I don't know if it's possible to hit confirm it, but it's really, I haven't had very much success hit confirming it in this game. I guess I'll just say that much. I don't know if it's possible or not, but I just say it's really hard for me. But basically you use that when basically the way I use it is I'll use jab or down forward one pressure. So I'll jab, jab, down forward one, jab, down four, and then you know, and this sort of mindset is universal for any character that's trying to rush down with these sorts of moves. It's just sort of like you sort of have to gain this understanding mid match of how your opponent is feeling. Like, with each jab, you have to be like, is he going to break? Is he going to press that button yet? And once he gets that, you hit them with that down forward one mid move, and then press the two, knock them down in front of you. Now, when you get the knockdown, you have a couple of options because they're basically face up, feet towards right in front of you. If they try to quick stand and stand right up as fast as they can, or try to back roll or something like that, you can do a instant while standing four. So you can either crouch and do while standing four, or you can do a quick crouch dash four to pick them up, and you'll float them, and you can get a full combo, the same kind of combo that you do when you counter hit quarter circle forward two. If they stay down, then she has a stomp, down 3+4, and it'll hit if they stay down or if they tech roll to one side. That's the basic mix-up. If they stay down, you stomp them. If they try to roll, you pick them up. And at that point you can get even fancier because she has other options that hit grounded, such as her wall standing 2, for example, will hit grounded, and if they try to stand up and block low, you can possibly get a launch. So that's the way I use that one. It's a little risky because it's really hard to hit confirm, and it doesn't jail. So if they're just holding down back to duck after still getting hit with down forward one, and you think it's a counter hit when it's not, they'll duck your second move, the second hit, and they can launch you. So it's a little risky to use that one. Another counter hit tool that she has is basically Magic 4, Standing 4, counter hit 4. And she can get a full juggle off of this, though it's a little difficult for new players because the way you have to initiate after you hit the counter hit 4, you have to do a deep dash and then hit them with a forward 1, basically a standing jab, and then you can do back 1-4 into her staple juggle stuff. But it's really difficult to get the timing because you have a very small window to hit the jab. So basically the easy version, which is the easy version of converting off of the Magic 4, is you do forward 2 and then you do down 1. And basically by doing that, you sacrifice the juggle damage, but you put them into an Oki situation by spiking them right down in front of you. And you sort of get the same options that you do from hitting down forward 1-2, as I said previously. You can pick them up if they try to quick stand, or you can hit them with any grounded mid or low. But
so do you normally then, are you able to consistently hit the dash 1, or do you sometimes just, I don't know, maybe if the forward 2 and down 1 will kill them, I guess, just for play the safe card, I guess, would you do it then, or are you mostly just sticking to the dash jab?
2 down 1 was going to kill, then I would do that. But I'm confident. I don't know if I'm consistent enough since everybody has their off days, but I'm confident enough to always, like mid match, like non-kill situation, go for the combo. So if with enough practice, I feel like it's very consistent to get. It's not something that's impossible to do.
Okay.
Cool. I talked about quarter circle forward 2. That's another really good counter hit tool in that on counter hit you get a full juggle if you can pick them up fast enough. And another tool that you have to learn how to pick them up fast enough is her down forward 2+3. And it's a low punch that sort of looks like Fang down 2 or Ganryu down forward 2+3, and that she punches the opponent in the foot, but it doesn't knock down. But on normal hit, it's like +5. But it's really slow, so it's sort of reactable. You can react to it, but on hit, you get a really good amount of frame advantage, such that a lot of your wall standing options are uninterruptible, like wall standing 4, wall standing 3. They can't interrupt it. If they try to sidestep, you can catch them with a full crouch low or wall standing while standing 2 or something like that. But on counter hit, it'll knock them face down in front of you, as opposed to down forward 1-2. That'll knock them face up, feet towards. This move will knock them face down, head towards. And the timing is really awkward for people that are just learning how to do it. But basically, if it's a certain timing and you can pick them up with while standing 4, and obviously you're getting it there. If anybody's paying attention, they're getting a pattern here that her while standing 4 is really good for picking up people for juggles. But you basically do while standing 4 into a full juggle. The timing on this is really weird though, because after you hit them counter hit, you have to sort of hold down forward for like a quarter to a half a second, such that she sort of moves forward very slightly, and then you press while standing 4, and then you'll float them up into the air. And for people that are trying to learn how to do this in counter hit and practice mode, after you hit counter hit down forward 2+3, and you're trying to hold down forward, if you do while standing 4 and it whiffs, you did it too slow. No, wait, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. You did it too fast if it whiffs. If you do while standing 4 and it hits on the ground, so that it hits them but it doesn't float them, you did it too slow. So the timing is weird, but you can practice it because you have these 2 very clear visual indicators of whether or not you did it too slow or too fast. So the timing is tricky to get down, but it's easy to practice, if that makes any sense.
That is really weird. So, and that's automatic? Like there's nothing they can do about that, or is that only if they try to quick stand?
No, it's free. It's a free pickup.
Wow.
And that's what makes it very if the opponent isn't used to blocking it, because it's pretty slow, so people that can train themselves, I believe you can train yourself to sort of, if they're rinsing it a lot on you, you can sort of, read it on reaction. And I've had players that I've used that move too many times, and they've just straight up low parried it on reaction or blocked it on reaction, and I had to sort of stop using it in a match. But that move is very scary, and it's a high crush. So it's very good when people are trying to pressure you with certain high moves. And if you can get that combo down, then it's a very powerful tool to use against somebody that's trying to pressure you. I talked about K and K2, the high back fist. That's a really good counter hit tool. The only downfall is that you can only use it when you're in that stance. But I talked about it before, if you think they're going to press a button when you're in that stance, then that's obviously an option available to you. I'm trying to think of any more good counter hit moves. Oh, this is a good one, but you unfortunately can't hit confirm it. It's a new move in this game. It's back 4 1+2. It's a 2-hit move. It's basically a kick into a shoulder, and if you use this against the wall, it wall splats, and then you can get a full combo. And it's either safe or relatively safe, because there's a little bit of pushback, and I don't know if anybody can punish it. It might be just limited to people with long range 12 punishers like Jack or Jinpachi. Maybe Paul can shoulder. I doubt it.
It's the frame data that I'm looking at. It says it's -9, so I don't know.
Okay, so it is safe.
Yeah.
So
assuming that's right, frame data can always be wrong, but
yeah, I wasn't sure if it's safe because the game is really new right now, and I don't want to commit to saying whether something is safe or not until I haven't tested a lot of this stuff yet. I'm still trying to find a team that I really like using and stuff like that, and I'm trying to enjoy the game for a little while longer before I try and actively break the game or try to get strats down.
Gotcha.
But and like you said, frame data is wrong, so even if I think something is safe, right now I can't necessarily depend on it until I get enough experience, so I can just say no one's ever punished me for this move, so in 2 years or something, so I can say it's safe instead of 4 months. So,
right.
But yeah, it's a really, it's basically it's pretty riskless. Basically you go for it if you're pressuring them against the wall and you think they're going to press a button. So if you don't get the counter hit, you're safe, or you're safe. If you do get the counter hit, you get the wall splat. So it's why not? It's one of those moves where you're just I don't know what to do right now, so I'm just going to do this move and see what happens. It's that kind of move. I think those are most of the main counter hit tools that I use. I really like down forward 2+3. I really like quarter circle forward 2. Magic 4 is Magic 4. The only problem with her Magic 4 is that it's a frame slower than a lot of the other characters, like Law. I think it's 12 compared to like Law or Julia or Nina's 11 frames. So in a lot of poking matches with those kind of faster characters, it loses out. But against slower characters, it's perfectly viable. And it's a Magic 4. Magic 4s are really dumb and they beat a lot of stuff, so why not use them?
Very
So
true. Very true.
they're magical. That's why we call them that. So
Okay, well let's since we kind of took care of the counter hit tools, let's go to the other end of the spectrum where you're punishing them, like you're retroactive. They did something, they fucked up. Now it's time to take advantage of it. So first, let's real quick just kind of go over her punishers, because I actually, aside from hop kick or whatever, that's all I can remember. So does she have any special 10 frame, or is it just jabs?
it's her 10 frame is 1/4. It does well. I don't know how much it does in this game. In T6, it did 28 damage, which was really good, and I believe it was +5. So that was her That was her 10 frame of choice. Basically, you got good frame advantage and good damage. Um, for 13 frames, she has up forward 1/2, which is a high mid string. That's natural combo, so you can obviously use it to punish. It wall splats, and it's only -14 if you mess up the punish, so you're relatively safe unless you're playing a Mishima or Brian or Lars or something like that. Uh, for 14 frames is forward 4/4. I mean, not forward 4/4, forward 2/2. I'm sorry. It does more damage than up forward 1/2, but it doesn't wall splat. So I tend to use it out in the open as opposed to against the wall where I'll do wall standing. I'll do up forward 1/2 and get the wall splat. And then for 15 frames, she has hop kick, which has pretty poor or mediocre range, and she has down forward 2. Down forward 2 has amazing range. Its only problem is that it doesn't launch crouchers. So if you there's not very many moves I believe that do that, but if you block a move standing that leaves them crouching and it's -15, you'll have to hop kick. You have to have that presence of mind to hop kick instead of down forward 2. Otherwise, most of the time you'll just do down forward 2. And her down forward 2 is -13. And we might talk about this later about how to beat her, but I feel like one of the most important things to do against Leo is punish her for having her down forward 2 get blocked. A lot of people don't punish it at all, and that's why they think it's really bullshit because they're letting free damage get away. But it's -13. You can get really good punishes of a lot of characters, and you shouldn't let that go. And hop kicks are -13 as well, so you shouldn't let those slide either. And besides that, situational punishers standing are her forward 2, I believe, is instant 14, like Brian's. But because of frame input, it's probably going to come out at 15 or 16. But you can use that for punishers that have pushback and are -15, -16, -17. And then the other block punisher that I really like, and I also use it as a whiff punisher a lot, is forward 1+2, and it's a relatively fast advancing shoulder, but it's like 17, I think, or 18 frames. Her forward 1+2, and I like it a lot because it does a chunk of damage. It does like 40 something damage in this game, and that's also -14. So it's not launch punishable except by the same characters I said before: Brian, Mishima's, Lars. I think that's it actually. So forward 2 and forward 1+2 are really good situational block punishers, and they're really good with punishers. So
Is
uh,
forward 1+2, the just looking at the knockdown, is that something you can roll out of, or are they stuck there to the ground?
Yes, you can quick roll out of it by holding back. Like if you got hit by Brian's forward 2 or something like that, you can quick roll out of it by holding back.
I was gonna say
Uh,
that'd be mad bullshit.
and against the wall, both of those moves will wall splat. So, you know, I've talked about it before, but every move that I talk about, I just want to reemphasize that these sort of fast, uh, long range moves are what give her such a presence in the mid range, especially if against the wall. If she can give a character against the wall a lot more sort of distance between each other than you would normally expect, and still sort of instantly be in their face, ready to wall splat them if they're not careful with what they're doing. Um, so that was standing punishment. For crouching punishment, her 11 frame is while standing 4. I talked about it before. It has really good range. It does, normal damage for a while standing 4. It doesn't spark or anything like that, like Paul or King or something like that. For 13 frames, she has while standing 3-1, which I talked about before. It's natural combo. But the second hit is launch punishable if it gets blocked. So just be on point with your punishes. And if you're fighting against Leo and you block that move, -15, launch it. Don't let it get away. Uh, Situationally, this is a move that has very limited uses, but very important uses. I feel you. Her other 13 frame punish is again while up forward 1-2 because you can do up forward from a crouching position, and this has very strong situational punishes. It can punish Steve forward 2, since that puts you in crouch. It can punish Brian's quarter back 3, since that leaves him standing. Um, Nina down back 3, it punishes. Um, a lot of these moves, a lot of these -13 moves that leave them standing or put you in crouch and leave them in standing are really good. Those are the 3 that I've been using extensively since I play against. I play against a Nina player a lot, and I've known that against Brian, and I've tried to use it against Brian players in T6 as well.
I
So
believe Law, his down back 3 is also -13, isn't it? I think it's been a while since
I believe it might be -13 or -12.
Yeah, so
I
pretty much those dangerous pokes that make certain characters annoying. You mentioned Nina's version, down back 3 or down 3, whatever it is. Because yeah, if you can get a bigger punish off of that, you definitely got to do it.
Yeah, and I think a couple of other characters have these sort of non-standard or non-conventional sorts of punishes. So just a general thing. Just sort of think outside the box of your characters and think, if I can punish these sorts of moves differently. Like Miguel, for example, in T6, Fab used to do it a lot. I believe Miguel, just a segue or go on a tangent. Miguel sort of has one of his 10 strings starts from crouch, and it happened to be like 13 frames or something. So Fab would Fab, when he was playing Miguel, he would punish these -13 lows for the kill in certain situations with like the first 3 or 4 hits of the 10 string from crouch. And I just thought it was ridiculous when I first saw it, but it was like really smart, and it was really thinking outside the box just to do something like that. So it's just another example of different moves that you wouldn't expect in the punish in a crouching situation.
Interesting. All right, and
Um,
then the launch. I think that's all we're missing from the wall.
yeah, actually, there is one in between.
Oh.
-14, she can do a while standing 1+2, which is a shoulder that looks a lot like Dragonov's while standing 1+2, except instead of knocking down, it does that fall back stun that they put in Tekken 6
Yeah,
that you can tech
butt
roll out of.
stun. Yeah.
Yeah, that butt stun. And if they tech roll, you'll get a mix-up while they're rolling. If they don't tech roll, then you'll get a free forward 1+2 shoulder. And those 2 moves together, if you don't tech roll it, that does like, I think, 70 damage or 70 damage altogether. So that's like a combo by itself, they don't tech roll. So, and that move, I believe, the shoulder is only, that shoulder also is only -14. So that's like relatively safe to just throw out a crouch dash or from a crouching situation. Um, so think about it, use it. If they don't tech roll, blast them in the face with another shoulder. Minus 15 is hop kick, and minus 16 is her while standing 2. Her while standing 2 is 1 frame slower than her down forward 2. So it does make a difference in a lot of situations that you can't punish certain lows because it's too slow. And those you have to hop kick. And the while standing 2 is, it was pretty nonsense in T6. It had a really weird hitbox in that it would hit people even if they tried to deep sidestep on you. They fixed they sort of fixed the hitbox a bit in that you can sidestep around it now a little more consistently, but it is risky and it still has a huge hitbox. It hit grounded. It has a really long hitbox in front of her, and it's minus 13, just like her down forward 2. So, hop kick, down forward 2, while standing 2, all the same punish. So that's I guess a good thing to keep in mind for people. And it doesn't push back as much as her down forward 2, so you don't have to worry about missing your punish a lot more. Because her down forward 2 does have a bit of pushback on it, and it can mess people up on if they block it right on the tip. So, but that's pretty much all her punishers. And
Okay, so now that we have that list, we went over some moves earlier where that you tend to do from that mid range if you whiff. Now, if you block and you get one of these punishers, what's the strategy? I guess are you trying to go into K and K from there, or maybe actually using the advantage to go into BOK, or how are you using that?
basically, any of the punishers, sorry, that don't knock down, you have a pretty good amount of frame advantage. You have like around, +3, +4, +5, like stuff like that. So basically, punishing them and not knocking them down really opens up your offense a lot, such that if they try to press a button, you can usually stuff them out with a down forward 2 or a counter hit move. Any of the counter hit moves I talked about before, like Magic 4, down forward 1 2, down forward 2+3, that stuff. Uh, you can go in the K and K. You can go in the K and K because you're right. Usually, if you punish them, you're right up close. Though some of them do push back a little bit. You can go to BOK if you think they're really scared to press a button. You can try to go for a throw. It's basically you have enough frame advantage to basically it's now your turn to mix them up, and it's just the only decision you have to make is it's my turn. Are they gonna respect that and not press a button so I can put them in a legitimate, mid-low mix-up of my choosing, or are they not going to respect that it's my turn and I'm just going to have to stuff whatever they're going to do with any sort of counter hit move or launcher that I want. And that's really up to the discretion of you as a player, and that's what shapes your playstyle. But honestly, you can do. I'm not kidding when I say you basically the floor is yours at that point when you've gotten a good punish. A lot of characters get punishes where they might be negative on hit or they might only get like +1 or +2. It's not like that with Leo. You get like a good jab punish or a good while standing punish, and that's when you can go in, which is you basically get a chance to get a free mix up or a stuff because I said before, like in my opinion, her pressure is a little lacking. So if they block your mix up or they block your limited poke pressure, at that point, you sort of have to back off and sort of reset the situation. But after that initial punish, when you get that initial punish, you basically have a free choice of what do I want to do at this point.
Well, I did want to ask real quick about that 50-50. For you, let's say that you're playing against somebody who can actually see the down forward 2+3. Now, one of the moves that she has that really scares the shit out of me whenever I play against her is down back 4-1. Now, is that your main go-to low in that situation, or do you prefer maybe doing a poke like her shin kick, or maybe just grabbing and not even doing a low, but just trying to do that to get them to duck?
It depends on how. It really depends on the player I'm facing and the situation I'm in. Obviously, if I'm about to die or they're about to die, I'm not going to go for down back 4 because that's super risky. Down back 4 is really her only natural hit knockdown low, besides her full crouch down forward 3, which is it's a slow low that's minus 14. But her down back 4, it's launch punishable. It staggers on block. It's a low that staggers on block. And you don't get the knockdown unless you input the second hit. If you just hit them on normal hit, it won't knock them down. So it's kind of like the first hit of Paul's Demo Man. Though if you get Paul's down 4 deep enough, it'll still knock down. It's not like that with Leo. You can be right in their face and hit them with down back 4 by itself. It still won't knock down. So I have to commit to doing both hits. The problem with the second hit is that if the first hit whips and they block the second hit, that the second hit is also launch punishable. So as a Leo player, I have to commit to basically dashing in deep on them and then doing both moves, because if their movement is good and I'm trying to hit them at the tip, let's say I'm trying to space it out so I can hit them at the tip and I don't have to like worry about getting hit with a lot of their close range moves, and they decide to backdash at that moment, the sweep is going to whiff, and then the mid punch is either going to whiff or get blocked. So I have to commit myself to using it, and I have to be prepared for the risks of using it. So the only times that I'll really commit to using it is when I want people to respect the fact that that move exists. If you know what I mean, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I want them to know that I have the move and I'm willing to use it just enough so that it makes them duck. And in my opinion, the reason why people duck on that move is not because they're afraid of getting hit by it, because the move, in my opinion, doesn't do that much damage compared to a lot of other moves in the game. It does like 40-ish damage, which is for like getting launched. In my opinion, it's not. The trade-off is not in my favor. I don't know if other people would agree with it. But the way I look at the move is that it's so appealing for my opponent to want to duck and block it, because they want to duck it and launch it. So I throw it out just enough for them to be like, okay, this guy's willing to do that move, so I want to be ready to block it. And it's fast enough so that you can't react to it. You have to guess whether or not it's going to come out or not. You have to like twitch duck. So I want to sort of get the move in your head just to make you duck. I don't want to hit the move. I want you to know the move exists and, have it in your head that it might come out. And then once I feel like you think the move is going to come out, I just stop using it.
So kind of give them just enough rope to hang themselves with. Sort of.
Yes, exactly. Because if I start using that move way too often, then there's that chance that they get that lucky block on either the first or the second hit, and I get, I'm the one that gets hung. Also, the move doesn't wall splat, like it wall splats, but it doesn't wall splat them it doesn't wall splat them in that way where I can quickly follow up with a bound, unless there's one specific range where they hit the wall just late enough where I can follow up with a bound. In all other instances, they fall before I can get to them. So the move itself has all these drawbacks, and the only really redeeming feature is that I can sort of use my opponent's eagerness to want to block it, try to use it against them. So my usual go-to lows are like, let's say down 4, like you said, the shin kick, down both kicks, which is the generic down 4. But you have to do it with down both kicks with her. I'll use Corsica forward 1, like I said before. And, these lows, they aren't anything special. All her good lows are slower, like you said, like down forward 2+3. I said before, it's possible to react to. Not everybody can do it, but against those opponents that can, that's sort of, you have to sort of, you can't play that card anymore. So, but down 4, generic down 4, Corsica forward 1, you have all these lows that are negative on hit. So, if there was one weakness that I would say about Leo, is that I feel like her lows are below average compared to a lot of other characters, because they're either negative or they're slow, so they can be reacted to, or like down back 4, they're launch punishable. So I try to mitigate that by using just poking with these lows and then backing out. So like you can like if I know my opponent knows that if I do this low and I'm at negative, they know it's their turn, so they're gonna try to attack. So if I know, and this this sort of thinking can apply to any character, not just Leo. But if I know that they know that I'm at negative and they want to attack, then at that point, that's when I back out and I try to make them whiff. And then I use my whiff punishers that we talked about before to like make them pay for just trying to take that turn too you know try to take that turn too eagerly or too fast. They're not thinking about what they're gonna do first.
Gotcha.
So
let's not to backtrack too much, but let's say that you got a Punisher, you're in their face, range 0 with frames. Do you usually try to poke or do something low, or would you rather go for a grab to get them to duck?
It's my playstyle, but I really like grabs in general, and I like characters that get good Oki off their grabs, and so I'll grab a lot, and so I'll grab, or I'll do a low, or I'll do a power low like down back 4. It really depends on the situation, but in reality, all I really want you to do is duck. So any of those 3 choices really will hopefully train my opponent to want to duck. But if we're going to talk about throws, I'll talk about how her throws work. They're not that much different from how they were in T6. So I don't know if you talked about it with Way Gamble a lot.
I cannot recall. I'm sure that we talked about grabs. I don't remember what we said. Looking at them real quick, the only 3 that I know of are her 1 grab, 2 grab, and then forward 1+2.
Those are exactly the same. Okay. They haven't changed at all.
And she didn't get any new grabs or anything like that?
No. I'll just quickly talk about. I'll just quickly go over the grabs in this game since there's a couple of nuances since it's a tag game now.
Okay.
I'll start with her 2 grabs since it's the most generic and most boring. Her 2 grab just sort of grabs them and knocks them to her right. So you'll get a wall splat on a normal if you're against the wall, if it has it on her right side, but you can't follow up, but it'll just sort of throw them against the wall. And in open space, you can't really follow up, so it's the most generic, and it's the least useful out of all her grabs, in my opinion. Her 1 throw will hit the opponent and then leave them face down in front of her, and you can get a free down 4 or a free back 1+4, which is a very awkward looking move that hits high and low at the same time. But both of these moves the opponent can't get away from. They're like free. The only way they can get away from them is by tag crashing. Like 100% get away from them. So if the opponent stays down and you know they're going to try to stay down, you can, instead of doing the free hit, you can try to get a stomp. And if the opponent tries to roll away, you can easily chase them down and do whatever you want. And what I like to do is if the opponent tries to slow roll in front of me, I'll just crouch right next to them and I'll do a while standing mix up. So I'll either do while standing 2 or my full crouch sweep low. And those will reliably hit on the ground in both those situations. And if they try to get up too fast, then I can try to get them with while standing 2. A Tekken Tag 2, I'm going to call it a gimmick, because it'll probably only work once on one person, and it'll probably never work again unless they just are dumb and they forget about it. If you hit the 1 throw and the opponent has tag crash available, what you can do to punish their tag crash, and you have to guess, you can't react to this, is that you hit the 1 throw, then you hold up back to jump backwards, and then they'll tag crash, it'll whiff completely, you'll land, and then you can wall standing to them to launch them. And I didn't find this out. This was given to somebody else. Information was given to me by another Leo player from New Jersey, Battle Jitney, and I have to say his name, otherwise he'll listen to the podcast and then bitch at me later that I stole his technology or something like that.
No cred. Got to give out the cred.
So I'm just going to give him his credit, even though I think it's a gimmick and it's a one-shot thing. But, sometimes those one-shot things are what win you tournament matches. So it's still completely legitimate, and it'll work on somebody the first time, especially in the heat of the battle if they're not thinking about it. So, and then her forward 1+2 throw is a throw that switches sides on both. If the opponent breaks it or doesn't break it, so it's useful for getting your back away from the wall. And if they don't break it, it wall splats. And you can also tag off this grab, and your partner can come in and bound them. In both, you can bound them, or you can tag off it, and the opponent can bound it. So it's useful for trying to get in either way. Like if you have let's say you have a wall combo that is optimized one way but not the other way, then you can choose to tag in your partner or not, and then you'll always have that your optimal starter ready to go for that combo. So that's the difference in that throw compared to T6. Otherwise, it's identical to how you'd use it in T6.
Oh, so it did not wall splat in T6, or you mean just that you can tag in?
It's identical, except it's identical to how it was in T6. So it wall splatted in T6 as well. The only difference now is that you can tag off it.
Gotcha. Out of curiosity, would you ever really want to tag out of it? Because it would seem to me like her wall game, I mean, is pretty strong. So I don't know if you necessarily
The
want
wall.
to.
Depends. A lot of teams really depend on having their best wall combo one way or the other, and Leo is one of them. There are certain teams where Leo is stronger ending the combo, or being either ending the combo or being the tag assault filler. Like a friend of mine in New York uses a Fang Leo team, which I think is super cheap, by the way. It's like such a good team, but basically, Leo is the point character. She bounds. Fang comes in, does a string, and then she ends with her regular T6 while standing 1-4-1 string. A lot of my teams require Leo to be the second character and have her do tag assault filler. And I guess we'll just talk about the wall damage in general right now and wall combos in general because we're already talking
Oh
about
yeah,
it. So
go for it.
In my opinion, her best follow-up when I'll talk about her on point first since it's really easy. Usually Leo has a one-hit bound or a two-hit bound. Usually her one-hit bound is just down 2 by itself, and her two-hit binds or bounds are either down back 2-2 or back 2 1+2. And the second one is what a lot of people use in wall combos. It's punch and then sort of like a double overhead hammer sort of thing. And the second character will come out, do whatever they do, and then Leia will do this 3-hit string while standing 1-4-1. And that string is really fast, and all the hits will hit like a really low slumped wall opponent. So it will usually hit no matter what your tag assault character does. So that gives your any Leo team a lot of versatility in being able to convert off of a lot of wall damage, because basically your second character does whatever they want, and then you can have the pretty good confidence that at that point when Leo comes back in and she's controllable again, she can just do wall standing 1-4-1 and it's going to hit. So it becomes a really easy consistent wall ender. As I said before, though, a lot of my Leo teams put Leo as the second character. So she's the one that's coming in as tag assault, and then my other character is the one that's doing the finisher. Now, this the reason why this works is sort of, I don't want to call it breaking, but it's sort of gaming the way the wall system works in this game.
Okay.
So basically, you'll do your bind move with your second character. Leia will come in. She'll do forward 4, which is a knee that transitions into K and K. So the forward 4 will basically wall splat them again. Now you crouch dash right up against the wall, right in front of them, and you cancel the crouch dash by holding down back or by letting it go to neutral, so she'll just naturally recover. And then at that point, you do wall standing 1-4-1. and this will all hit, even though theoretically it's already 4 hits. And then if you do this correctly, your character will be able to follow up with a 2 or 3 hit string of their choice. So if people listening to the podcast are doing their math right now, we're already at like 6 to 7 hits on the wall, not including whatever you bounded them with. So that's pretty ridiculous. I don't know. I don't know if anybody would disagree with me, but there's the way this works is that the way the wall system works in general in Tekken 6 and in this game is that you're only supposed to get 3 hits before they start falling really fast. And I'm sure a lot of people have this experience in this game where you're hitting them against the wall and all of a sudden they start slumping really fast. I don't know if you've had it,
yeah.
or if you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
The way the game works is that you're only supposed to get 3 hits, and then they start falling really fast, and unless you have a string that hits really fast, they'll fall out of it and they'll tech roll. So the way the wall system works, what it counts as a wall hit. And, I have to thank people like Kane and Mr. Naps for explaining this to me. And I'm going to apologize to them if I mess up the explanation because I'm still not 100% clear on it.
Okay.
But I'm going to try to explain it on the podcast so people listening can try to have a better way of how the wall system works.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure they'd appreciate that because both of those guys enjoy trying to spread information around and not try to keep people in the dark on stuff. So basically, I said you get 3 wall hits, but certain moves don't count as a wall hit to the game. And the 2 moves that don't are spikes. If a move spikes, it doesn't count as a wall hit. And if a move sort of clean wall splats or puts the opponent back on the wall, and actually I'm sorry, there's 3 things. The last thing that doesn't count as a wall hit is if a move hits them when they're right on the ground, like sort of almost like completely on the ground, but they can't tech roll yet. That also doesn't count as a wall hit.
So such as like jacks down back 1-1-1-3 or
yeah.
2.
The way that works is that the very first down back 1 doesn't count as a wall hit, and that's why Jack players will always wait for their opponent to slump all the way down. So then you do down back 1-1-1-2, and then the first hit doesn't count as a wall hit, and then you get 3 hits. So it follows the rules because you just have 3 hits. So that's a really good and simple explanation. The first hit, because it hits all the way on the ground, doesn't count, and then you just get 3 hits afterwards. So it follows all the rules afterwards. So the reason why Leo's is broken as tag assault filler is that the whole string I said before, forward 4, cancel crouch dash into wall standing 1-4-1, the forward 4 puts them back on the wall. That doesn't count. When you do the wall standing 1 after you've canceled your crouch dash, you do the wall standing 1 very late, so it puts them back on the wall. It hits them on the ground and puts them back on the wall, so it doesn't count as a wall hit. So you've hit them twice already, and the game hasn't registered any wall hits yet. So I think you can see, how dumb this already is. So now the 4 hits, which is a low, that's normal. And then the 2 hits, which is also normal. So now you have 2 wall hits, and then if your second character has like a fast 2-hit string or a really fast 3-hit string, you can get all those hits in while they're trying to slump really fast. So a good example of why this is important to manipulate is my Marduk Leo team. My Marduk Leo team has a wall combo where Leo does that tag assault filler that I mentioned, and then Marduk gets a wall throw afterward. So it does a really good chunk of damage because the wall throw is unscaled. So if let's say I get a full wall carry to the wall, bound, Leo combo, unscaled wall throw, it does a chunk of damage, and it's ridiculous, and it's disgusting. Like, it's just disgusting. But I have to hit the forward 4, so that doesn't count, and I have to hit them on the ground with the first hit of the Leo string, so that doesn't count. So what will happen is that the last 2 hits of the Leo string will pop them back on the wall. If I do it wrong, the whole Leo string will hit, but the last hit will hit on the floor and not put them back on the wall, and then Marduk can't follow up with the wall grab. And this is very specific and it's very consistent if you do it correctly, but you have to do it correctly. And that's why it's important to sort of figure out with your characters how to do it correctly. Another example of the wall system is, like I said before, spikes don't count as wall hits. So I have a Dragonov Leo team where I'll bound with Leo starts the combo. I'll bound with Leo. Dragonov will come in. He'll sidestep to one direction, and then he'll do 4-3, which is a kick into another kick that spikes them if they're airborne, and it's a bound move for him. So the first kick will put them on the wall, and the second hit will spike. And so then again, neither of these count as wall hits. And then Leo, when control comes back to Leo, I basically get my T6 wall combo of fully crouched duck punch into wall standing 1-4-1. And that only works if I get the spike. So, you have all these very specific combos by gaming the system that can increase your wall damage output. So I don't know how you feel about this, or if you have any questions about this.
No, it's well. I mean, based on I guess I never really thought of it that way as the way that you explained it, like it was actually the system in a way working properly. It's just following its rules. I always thought of it like as a situational thing, kind of with the jack, like, oh, you just gotta wait a little bit and then you can get all of the hits in. But no, that makes the jack thing as well as a lot of other stuff make more sense as to why it would hit.
I just wanted to explain it for people because I feel like a lot of people just feel like it's random or it just follows rules that can't really be explained. And I feel like, one, that's just sort of lack of information, and two, that's just sort of laziness on other people's perspectives. So just like chalking it up to I'll just say like sort of the whim of the game for letting it work. But thanks to Mr. Naps and thanks to Kane, they sort of let me learn how the rules work, and they apply very consistently to a lot of different characters. So you can like try to use these rules of like a re-wall splat or a spike or a low grounded hit, and grounded hits are really easy to try to figure out because they when you get the grounded hit on the wall, it does the 60% instead of the normal whatever scaled number it's supposed to do. So that is really easy to figure out as well, because then you can just do your juggle and see where you can get the grounded hit. But if you do any of those three rules, you sort of like break or game the system or fool the system into thinking you're not doing any wall hits. So if you practice with your characters, you can think of situations, and then maybe you can like get output a lot more wall damage than you did previously. Because after I learned those things, I was getting like an extra 10, 15 damage on the wall, and that's like, for me, that was like a good 10, 20% damage increase on my wall combo. So that meant a lot to me. So
yeah, no, and that makes sense too. I play, well, now I play Bruce. And a lot of Bruce's wall game, he typically he does the forward 3-1 and then ends it with down back 2-1-4. And like in many situations that you have to kind of go straight to the bound, otherwise the down back 2-1-4 string will just whiff after the forward 3-1. And that makes sense as to why, because you're already racking up wall hits prior to that. So right, like if you go straight to the bound, the forward 3-1, that would be 1-2 hits, and then even though the down back 2-1-4 is 3 hits, you're still starting. It's like you mentioned, it's a quick string. So when you're starting it on the third hit, so you can actually connect it all. And then of course everything gets really, really low. So, but that makes a lot more sense as to why it's doing that.
oh yeah, I think one more rule that's I think really obvious to people, but I'll just mention it as well, is that any hits that if you launch them really high up on the wall and they haven't like fallen all the way down on the wall. So let's say you get like a Bruce, crouch dash 2 right up against the wall, so they get wall splat really high up. A lot of any hits before they sort of fall back down to the normal level also don't count as wall hits. So that's why you can get like Bruce, like we'll just talk about Bruce. You can get like crouch dash 2, and then like forward 1+2, like the spinning elbow, and then you can get like a standard combo afterward, and that will still all work as well. But it's like a lot of rules, and they're actually, it can be called rules because they're consistent. They always seem to apply, and I think people can appreciate having that sort of knowledge that if I follow these rules, I should have this consistent result. So
yeah, it's just it's rules. You got to learn the rules, and as with anything, sometimes the rules that it's using to calculate results go pretty fast, so it can be goofy sometimes and seem random, but
all
yes,
right,
knowledge is your key.
so enough of talking about general stuff,
Yes.
since this is supposed to be a Leo podcast.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have any more questions that you wanted to ask or any other points that you wanted to talk about.
I think we covered most of it because we talked about punishing, obviously, her stances, juggle damage, walls, talked about safety. I don't really see anything on my list here that we haven't gone over. So I guess I'll just throw it to you. Is there anything we haven't gone over that you think is important to mention?
I don't know if you normally do this, but I usually like to. I would like to talk about like necessarily like what I feel like the characters' weaknesses are. And I already talked about this for a little bit, but I just sort of want to talk about maybe necessarily like anti-Leo sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah, go for it. Usually I bounce back and forth. Like if I think of something where I'm like, oh man, that sounds like bullshit. How do you get around that? Then that's usually when I broach the subject. But if you want to go for it, like weaknesses and I guess since this is a Leo oriented episode, kind of maybe throw out hints to Leo players like, hey, here's sort of what you can do to counteract that. But yeah, I'll just throw it at you.
Okay, so one of the things I talked about Leo before is I feel like she's super strong in the mid-range game because a lot of her moves have really good range and can basically she can outrange a lot of other characters. But I feel like she's lacking up close because a lot of her moves are slower compared to other strong pressure characters like let's say Law or Lars or Nina or stuff like that. So if she gets sort of into a up close poke fight, she tends to lose unless she sort of tries to like crush or more or less bullshit her way out. And she has a couple of moves that can do that. Like one move that I didn't talk about is forward 2+3, which is a sidestep. She takes a sidestep to her right, and then she tries to do a high punch. And sort of like the best thing I compare this to visually is Eddie's back two.
Mm-hmm.
So, except hers is high instead of mid, and she takes a slightly larger step than Eddie does. So she'll, unless like if she's just trying to like sort of mash buttons on a lot of these normal pressure characters, she's going to lose. So like down forward 1 or magic 4 or like I said, a lot of her faster lows are negative on hit. So by using those, she really gives up pressure. So if you're using those characters, you can really rush her down and not be 100% afraid because she can always try to crush you with a down forward 2 or a down forward 2+3 or double sidestep by let's say sidestepping right and doing forward 2+3 like I just mentioned or using BOK. But if you know that this Leo player is just trying to let's say down forward 1, down forward 1, down forward 1 you, those down forward 1s are -1 on block. So if you throw out a jab or your own down forward 1, probably you're going to win unless you have a non-generic down forward 1 or something. But so, in my opinion, Leo players that try to stay in stay extended, like these extended poking battles, unless they're getting hits. Of course, if you're hitting them, obviously you're going to be getting frame advantage. But if you're just blocking all these Leo pokes, more than likely she's negative, unless it's the ones that we talked about earlier that give her a good frame advantage, like the knee on her K and K string transitions or BOK3. If you block that, that's a lot of frame advantage. But basically up close, I feel like she's lacking. That's the basic point.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned 4-2-3. That kind of also looks like something you could use, because it wall splats, something you could use if your opponent has their back to the wall, and you think they're going to try to start jabbing their way out of it. I don't know if it has that much evasion on it, but
Yes, yes, especially it does have that much evasion on it, especially if you can throw a extra sidestep onto it. So like I said, like sort of sidestep right, forward 2+3, and then it'll sort of give you a double sidestep. So that's definitely one of the ways that you can use that. And if you're fighting against her, you should be aware of that. And if you're using her, know that that's one of the ways that you can really make that move really effective.
Nice.
Cool. So she loses up close. Her lows are a lot of her lows are negative, or she takes they're either negative, like I said, the fast ones. The slow ones are pretty seeable, like down forward 2+3 or fully crouched down forward 3. You just have to sort of train yourself to get used to them. And or she takes a big risk by doing them, and that one is down back 4. So and then if you block down back 4 or you block down the second hit of down back 4-1, know that you can launch Punisher. The sort of like the last one I want to touch on is a lot of her good moves. They're not like super punishable, but you still have to make sure that you can punish them, because a little bit of damage every time she tries to do something. She doesn't have a lot of moves that are 100% safe, besides outside of generic pokes. So you have to make sure that even though you're not getting these, big launches into big juggle damage, you have to make sure that you're like, let's say, while standing 4, all these lows, or you're, like I said, her down forward 2, her hop kick, and her wall standing 2 are all -13. So you have to be sure, like your -13 punish isn't going to be a launcher unless you're like some super awesome Kazuya player. That's the only situation where that'll happen. But you have to be sure, you have to know that, even though you're not getting these launches, this damage is adding up. And every time you successfully punishing her, you're dissuading her from, trying to do these moves. Especially since, like I said, her pressure game is a little weak. And if you get the life lead on her, she has to come to you. And if you're better in the close range, then that's when you can try to dominate her. So those are sort of the 3 main ones I wanted to touch on. Sort of like her up close game is weaker than a lot of characters. A lot of her lows are lacking, so take advantage of that. And just punish. Punish consistently a little bit at a time, and it's going to add up. And they're all sort of related to one another, but they're all really important.
So I guess to kind of follow up with that, do you think what's the best way to ask this? From T6 to now, you mentioned, way earlier, how she's been nerfed, but she's gotten some buffs as well. Do you think that she's still like, obviously you like her, but do you think she can still compete like at that level, or are there like maybe certain matchups, like characters that she just has no chance of winning, or it's like just such an uphill battle? Or do you think that she's always in it? Like you're always going to have a chance?
This is going to sound weird because I just listed like a couple of what people might think are, pretty substantial cons, but I actually think she's a maybe top 10, top 15 character in this game. So, and that's mainly because of the strength of her versatility. Because, like I said before, she meshes well with a lot of characters. So you can really put her. I can't really think off the top of my head of any character she really wouldn't work well with on a team, just because of how her tag assault filler, both in the open and against the wall, is. Like, it really works with a lot of different characters. Plus, her just damage output as a standing character in terms of punishing makes her a really strong, punishing character, either as a secondary or anchor. So obviously, because she has good standing pokes, Rage is so good on her. And just like, her damage output in juggles is really good. Her damage output in standing punishers is really good. She has good tag assault filler. She has good wall combos. She has good combos solo and tag, whether she's first or second on the team. I mean, just like sort of poor lows and poor sort of up close pressure. and not even that poor. I would say like maybe I just overdid it a bit. I would say like mediocre up close pressure. She's probably like I guess like Law versus, in my opinion, Law versus Leo. Law wins, or like Nina or Lars versus Leo. They win, but that's not like I don't think people would necessarily not expect those outcomes. To be honest, like any strong up close pressure character, like if Jack gets a knockdown on you, and he basically gets to mix you up after he knocks you down. That's really hard for Leo to get away from or to fight against. But that's a problem that a lot of characters share. So I don't feel like it's a huge negative for her. It's just like looking at her by herself. She has these problems, but when you compare her to the rest of the cast, I feel like she's still a really good character. And I I've said this in T6, and I said it before. Like I feel like she's really simple to pick up. Like I don't feel like she's really simple to pick up, but she has enough depth to keep people playing. And I didn't know why people didn't use her in T6. I see a lot more people trying her out in Tekken Tag 2. Like not that many more, but just like a couple of more people. Like Way Gamble uh, was using her as a secondary in T6 as one of his secondaries, but now he's basically his main team is Leo and Lei right now, so he's basically picked her up as a main, and I feel like a lot more people should because I feel like she's a really good character.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
I think not the reason, but a big reason for that is this game is it's all about damage. Like there's if you can hit hard, you will always have a chance. And I feel like people are acknowledging because of, or I guess it's more easy to see for players when you have something like a tag assault and she comes in and hits you 3 times for a third of a life bar just for
Hmm.
her section. I think that entices people a little bit more.
Hmm.
But in either case, yeah, I mean, from what it sounds like, what you said, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't sound like she has any, like 8-2 matchups or 7-3 or anything that's just ridiculous where she's going to get beat down most of the time. So
Yeah, well, I don't really feel like a lot of characters in this game, especially in Tekken Tag 2, have those kinds of really bad matchups anymore. And even if they do, you can always play around that by choosing a partner that mitigates that a little bit. So that's part of the reason why I really like playing this game. And besides the damage, that's maybe a tiny bit amazingly high bit too high. I really feel like this is like one of my favorite Tekken so far. And I feel like if they just toned down the damage by maybe a quarter or something, it'd be a lot better. But I'm fine with the game as it is, honestly.
yeah, I would actually. I agree with that. To be honest, I would actually be more um, accepting of a 2 out of 3 round format if it was. I mean, if you had a chance to use a huge life bar, like I know you already have 2 to begin with, but if damage, I mean, if juggles did more like um, a quarter to a third of life or something like that, I'd actually think because I mean, if they tone down juggles, like even though juggles do so much damage now, I mean, matches still take quite a while and they're even getting longer just because people are getting more used to it and they're getting better at using both of their character life bars.
Yeah,
That if they lowered it, I feel like it would take for a tournament would take forever. But
yeah.
yeah, I agree though. I think just a smidgen down would help out a lot. Um, well, with that, I mean that's all I got on Leo. So I mean, was there anything else that you wanted to add before we kind of go into the conclusion of the?
No, I just wanted to. The main thing I wanted to talk about was that I didn't know if we were going to talk about was just sort of anti-Leo stuff and just sort of my, I guess, overall perception or thoughts about her in terms of the overall cast. And I touched on that. I feel like she's really good and she goes well with a lot of different characters. So it's open to experimentation. You can just throw her on whatever guy you want, and she should work out. But
Nice.
you know,
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I kind of wanted to do her earlier in the cast or in the episode list because I don't see a ton of players playing her. And granted, I mean we have 50 plus characters, so so you have a lot to choose from. But um, yeah, I feel like she's an overall pretty strong character whenever I see her play. So um, just want to chat about her and see what she had that was new and whatnot. But yeah, if that's all that you got for Leo, then I guess we can go into the final segment, and that's the rage segment, of course. And I just want you to go off. You did this once before, of course. It doesn't have to be Tekken related. It doesn't even have to be gaming related if you don't want it to be. But I do want to hear a little bit of salt. I want the salt to open up and pour out of the bag onto something. So I'm going to give you your soapbox, and I'm going to let you go.
Ah, man, I wasn't ready for this. I've been feeling pretty good recently, so I don't think I have anything particular to be salty about. I don't know. I guess I'll talk about things in general that get me mad. I hate when I'm walking on the street and you're walking behind somebody and they're going abysmally slow, and you want nothing more than just sort of like donkey punch them in the back of the head and tell them to hurry up because they're holding you down. Uh, I hate when like somebody drinks a little bit of orange juice and they drinks like the almost the last bit of orange juice in the carton, but they leave like that sip left in the carton and put it back in the fridge as if like that's okay. Or if they're like, nah, man, I couldn't drink it. I was just gonna be too full. I'm like, screw you, dude. Why are you gonna leave it in the fridge and just fill me up with disappointment and anger when I wake up in the morning?
That sounds like somebody who
Like,
has roommates.
yeah, these roommates don't do it, but I've had other people that I've like stayed with or like gone on trips with that would do it sometimes. But I don't know, man. It's weird. Nothing Tekken related, really. I guess I'm salty that Core came to Apex and won, and like the game was the only one that could like have a chance against him or something, and then he loses like 0-3 twice in a row. Like, what the hell is that stuff? Like, come on, Fernando. Like, how are you gonna lose like that after you get to like grand finals, after you beat like Rampage and everybody else, and then I'm salty about like Fab getting fourth. Like, I didn't even watch the matches, so I have no idea what happened. But like Fab getting fourth, man, you fucking suck. Like, I love you, man, but what the hell is that stuff?
Oh man.
But it's just like little Tekken things. I'm salty that I can't go to all the tournaments I want to because I don't have time, or sometimes I don't have money because I want nothing more than to compete in this game. Like, I love like more than I love playing this game, I just love playing in tournaments in this game, to be honest. Like, a lot of people get like salty and rage when they lose. I just like the 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 competitive aspect of this game and games in general are just like what keep me in, and just I just love playing. I just love like being at a tournament and like talking shit and having shit talked at me and then like shutting people up. Or maybe I don't shut people up, but that doesn't, sometimes it doesn't happen. But it's just like, having that hype happen. Maybe it's because I feel like my normal life is so devoid of hype. Like, I can't just like, you know, uh, walk down the street and challenge somebody to like a first to three for no reason. They'll think I'm crazy or something.
They're
But
like, first to three and what? What the hell are you talking about? Get away from me.
yeah, I guess I'm just like angry that I can't wake up in the morning and just have a tournament happen. I have to wait like every month or a couple of months for a big tournament to happen. I wish it happened like every day.
Hey,
So,
I mean, slowly but surely, we're getting to that point. I mean, there's a hell of a lot more tournaments now than there were 5, 6 years ago. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's helping. And now that online play is good, now you have people experimenting with online tournaments and stuff, and it's only a matter of time. Only a matter of time.
Oh, I'm salty that Anakin didn't invite me for the season of his Iron Fist League online tournament. Like, thanks a lot, Hoa. I wanted to play. I would have wanted to play, but I guess I wasn't good enough to be in your league. I would have like made the game look all shitty or something. So thanks a lot, Hoa. Thanks a lot, Anakin.
Very,
But that's like a little plug for that. Anakin's doing this online Tekken League for a couple of weeks.
see
He's
how it
got like
goes. Yeah.
he's got like 24 decent players, pretty good players, pretty strong players from the Midwest and the East Coast, and Arturo from the 2D scene. Sabin Arturo Sanchez, for those that might know him, he's a really big supporter of the Tekken scene, and I really appreciate him for that. And he's planning on streaming the matches live every Tuesday on his Twitch channel, so twitch.tv/NYC Furby. So if you guys are free on Tuesday evenings, you can check him out there. And we did the first week last week, so this Tuesday will be week 2, hopefully. And it's been really entertaining matches, and it's like 4 to 6 hours for the night. So it's like you just sit back and watch Tekken all night. Doesn't seem like a bad deal to me.
No, that's really awesome. I mean, you look at all of these other games that people are playing, like StarCraft and League of Legends or Dota or whatever the hell, and there's channels running 24/7 on those fucking games. So
Yeah.
I'd like a 24/7 Tekken channel.
Yeah, I want to have in the middle of my rage, I want to have some very sincere shout-outs to Arturo and Spooky and a bunch of the other East Coast guys that try to support Tekken, even though the New York Tekken scene can't be bothered to come to like Big 2 and stuff. That's another thing I'm salty about, how our own community can't come to tournaments, but it's partially understandable that it's a Wednesday night, so people have things to do, like go to work in the morning and stuff. So we're trying to reorganize our New York Tekken community and see about showing up to gatherings on a different day and maybe finding a way to stream those. So hopefully people that really want to see New York Tekken players go at it again will have a chance if we can organize ourselves and stop being so goddamn lazy and shit. But so no promises, but we're gonna try our best, I hope.
Well, you actually kind of opened the door to what is usually my next segment, question, whatever. Other than the people you already mentioned, did you have any other shout outs or anything that you wanted to do while we have the chance?
Shoutouts to New York Tekken in general. So, Fab, NYC Fab, he tries to stream a bit irregularly, but he's been streaming Tekken a bit at his Twitch channel at NYC Fab. Like I said before, shoutouts to people like Kane and Mr. Naps, who've been who are willing to talk to somebody like me who's worse than them, and just talk about the game in general and help me get my understanding up about the game, which is one of the things I love. I love like sort of like being a student of the game and just learning new things about it. Shoutouts to Bronson for always calling me a scrub and trying to help me get better, even though he always calls me a scrub like a jerk. Just shoutouts to just the Tekken community in general. I really hope that we can grow and put on better tournaments to keep going and try to get more people from other scenes interested in our game, because our community is pretty solid, but it's super small comparing to other 2D communities like Street Fighter and Marvel and online communities. So I hope people that are listening to podcasts such as yours and others, and looking at all this new online content that people are trying to produce, try to get into the game and learn how to get better at it. So just shout outs to us, hopefully growing in the future. Shout outs to us, man. I really love the Tekken community. Like, I've made so many friends that I really thought were cool people, and that's another reason why I like going to tournaments and stuff. I love seeing the friends that I've made and making new ones. And I've already made new friends in this game. Like, I've met new people already, and I thought they were cool people. So that's one of the things that keeps me going.
It's interesting that you say that, because we are kind of a small community. It's weird. Like, you notice all of these other games, and over time, even though relatively speaking, if you compare them to other big esports, they're the Street Fighter scene and Marvel scene and just the SRK scene is still small, but they seem to be growing. But the Tekken scene, we haven't seemed to grow very often. Like, I feel like we're still getting the same number of turnout, like people coming to tournaments that we always have, which is kind of weird. Like, new people, but like older players are falling out, and then newer ones come in just to replace them, which is
so weird. We just stay at the same number the whole time.
Yeah, we just have turnaround, whereas everyone else is just growth. But
yeah,
I guess it is what it is. But speaking of tournaments, though, where can we see you next? What is the next big tournament you plan on hitting up?
I don't know if I can make it to KIT. I really want to, but I have to see if I can scrounge up some money somewhere in my couch to go. But I'm definitely going to final round in March. I missed last year and I felt really bad about it because I heard a lot of big upsets and a lot of good matches happened, even though it was the last year of Tekken 6. But it's the first year of Tekken Tag 2, and I'm definitely not going to miss it. Um, I don't know what other tournaments besides that are on. I really have to get a calendar and put all these tournaments on it so I don't forget about all of them.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of what big tournament we have in February, because we have KIT in January, and then obviously Apex just happened. We have final round you mentioned in March, Winter
I feel
Brawl,
like
I
there's
guess.
something.
It's in
Oh
February.
yeah, I'll probably be at Winter Brawl as well since it's in
And then
Philly, so that's really close to
and
me.
SoCal regionals either I haven't been paying attention. They either already happened. No, January 18th. So okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
So I
that'll be.
mean this weekend. Yeah, okay, it's happening right now. I'm obviously not in SoCal, so I haven't really been
Yeah.
paying attention to that date. But that's I mean I'm sure that'll be big. And it's funny that you mentioned the money matches and big upsets and whatnot from last year, because there's already challenges flying all over the place for final round for this year. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's gonna be fun. That's for
Shout
sure.
out, shout outs to Mr. Taxi for standing tall in the face of everyone wanting to take his money.
Yeah, he's
And
got a
I've also
ton. He's got a huge
and
line.
I've also seen during some of Arturo's streaming of Iron Fist League last week, this ATL player, Speed Kicks, that plays Jin and Horong, was really taking it to Fab in the stream chat. So he was a new player, but being really cocky, and I really like it.
You always got like
So
drama.
maybe there'll be something happening at final round. I'm really looking forward to it.
Indeed. Well, sir, that's all I got. We have exhausted all of my talking points. So with that, I do like to give you the last word. So if there's anything else that you want to throw in there before I stop the recording, now would be the time.
Just keep playing. Follow me at Twitter at blood_hawk because all the other variations of my name are taken or incredibly gay and stupid. No offense to actual gay people, you know what I
Or
mean.
stupid.
But or stupid people, you know what I mean. But follow me there. Feel free to if you have any questions about the game. I'm always down to try to answer people's questions about the game through Twitter. I already get some questions sometimes. Just keep playing, keep learning. I'll be doing that, and I hope everyone enjoys the game and it has a really long lifespan.
I second that as well. So for me, that's all I got, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, because I'll be at KIT and then I'm going to be taking a personal vacation after that, it'll probably be a little while until the next episode. But again, KIT is going to happen, so there's going to be some big names at that tournament. So hopefully, we'll get some new people on the podcast. Maybe old players that are still like we're doing right now that are still making a splash. Expect good things. And, like Bloodhawk said, keep playing the game, keep learning. That's why we do these. That's why you play to begin with. It's just to keep learning, keep having fun. So with that, that's all I got. So for Bloodhawk and myself, thank you very much for listening. And you guys have a good one. We will get you another episode later. Peace.